Welcome back to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. This is a special episode of the show where I'm going to be sharing my opinion on what the ambition of Fulham Football Club is. What is it? Well, for the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to share my thoughts on what my ambition is, what I believe Marco's is, and what I think the ambition of Fulham Football Club, what I mean the owners happens to be. This is just my opinion, but I'm going to share my thoughts on this in this episode. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. Okay, so since I did not do a show after the 1-1 draw for Fulham against Crystal Palace, I'm just going to share some quick thoughts on that. And let's just call it a disappointment. Fulham should really have been doing much better these last couple matches. I can point to the Liverpool match. I can point to this match. And why do I feel watching it that they're just not as driven as they were at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season? Do the players see the end of the season and are just playing out the string? I don't think so, but I just don't see the same reaction from this team that I saw maybe even 3 to 4 weeks ago. So maybe it is the situation where they are safe. There's no pressure on them. I don't know, but I think it showed itself in the first half. Were they surprised that Crystal Palace would come at them? I don't know, but they certainly did not react well. And they reacted much better in the second half. So that just tells you that it took Fulham really to get going, I want to say, in the second half, to show you a different approach, to show you the Fulham Football Club that I've enjoyed watching this season. I still really enjoy this team. I'm just disappointed by how the season is just puttering out. They had a chance to do something against Liverpool. They certainly had a chance to do this against Crystal Palace, but the result is typical of two teams that are mid-table, and that's going to get to my talking about ambition, because right now Fulham are in the midst of mid-table mediocrity. They're just a mediocre side. I want better for Fulham, and I will be sharing that during this show. But watching this match, watching how it all played out, I just felt it's just two teams that are right in the middle and that will be comfortable probably, hopefully, next season. But if Fulham don't do enough next season to build from what they have the last two seasons, then they could be dealing with a relegation battle. But I don't want that. I don't think the Fulham supporters want that. I think the Fulham supporters want more. That's why I am doing this show, because I am just extremely disappointed by how this season is ending. A team that I think is a better team than the team from last season. But the table doesn't lie. Right now, that team is better. And that is what's disappointing me. We'll see how it all ends points-wise, but they would have to basically win out to be at that level with the team from last season. And it shouldn't have been that way. There were matches in here for Fulham to win and not get draws, and this is a typical one. So you have to give credit to Crystal Palace for turning it around. They changed the manager. That's working. Fulham, I'm sorry, you're home. You should be winning that match, not drawing. And you shouldn't be coming out and playing like that in the first half. Very disappointed by the performance. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, so let's get to talking about ambition. Let's start with the ambition of Marco Silva. Before I talk about my ambition and what I think the ambition of the Cons is, let's talk about Marco. So Marco has made it perfectly clear that he has huge ambition. So for me, I actually think, and I've heard this from just comments and others talking to me about this, that Marco has high ambition that might even be Champions League ambition for Fulham Football Club. Now, they're nowhere near that. They don't have the talent for that. But I love the ambition. I want them to be striving for that. I know the limitations of Craven Cottage doesn't allow you to really compete against the Big Six. Well, we'll talk about the potential change in rules for a spending cap, because that could be the equalizer that could really help Fulham Football Club, I think. But let's start with the ambition. If his ambition is Champions League someday for Fulham Football Club, then the Khan should be doing everything humanly possible to give him the tools to reach that goal someday. And I believe that's what he's looking at. It's baby steps, right? But when you look at the way the team is constructed, the way that they are now in mid-table, and there are people that are happy with Fulham being mid-table. I get that because they're safe. You don't have to worry about a relegation battle the last 2 seasons. That's great. But if you're not striving for something better, then you are opening yourself up to relegation. Marco Silva is not thinking, well, we just need to survive. He's thinking about how can Fulham thrive. And that to me is his ambition. His ambition is Europe. His ambition, I truly believe, is Champions League for Fulham. We should be embracing that instead of, well, it's impossible. I say, no, it's not impossible. 1, you have to believe that you can get it done. 2, you need to execute it. 3, you need to spend some money and see how it all plays out. Fulham do not have the players to contend for a Champions League spot. Let's call it what it is. But maybe someday they would if they got in the right players. I'll use Paulinho as an example. You need 4 or 5 Paulinhos to even think about it. They don't have that. Look at Liverpool. Liverpool have so much more money than Fulham do. I understand all that. And they're Liverpool, and Liverpool and Fulham are not on the same plane. But like I said, if the rules do change, they might be closer than you think. So then it comes down to ownership, spending their money wisely, and building up Fulham Football Club. And that's what I'm hoping. And that's what I believe Marco wants. Marco wants the best for Fulham Football Club. His ambition is to be playing with the big boys in the Champions League. And the Khan should be doing everything possible to enhance that vision of his. But the question is that their vision? And I'll be sharing my thoughts in that in a second. So let's move on to what my ambition is. When I first started watching Fulham Football Club back in 2007 during the Great Escape, it was really just survival. That's all it was. It was survival. And then the next couple seasons, obviously, we had some tremendous seasons. You had Fulham going to the Europa League final. Unbelievable accomplishment. And I remember when Fulham were in the top 10, and I'm throwing it out there. Why can't Fulham strive for more? And I kept getting the feedback from Fulham supporters, like basically saying, Russ, they're never going to be that. They're never going to be that. And I put that dream aside of that Fulham could contend for, say, Champions League, or dare I say, even a title someday. And I understood it because financially, it certainly was not possible. And like I said, if the rules are changing, who knows? We'll have to see how that all plays out and what the rules will actually mean. Will it be an even playing field? I don't know, because everything still needs to shake out. But if there's a possibility that the rules could benefit Fulham Football Club, I hope that they do everything that they can to fulfill Marco's ambition and mine, because my ambition for Fulham Football Club is basically the same as Marco's. I would love to see Fulham in the Champions League someday. I'm going to say it. I would love to see Fulham win the Premier League title. Now, you can laugh and scoff at this as you're listening. Why should I be just settling for mid-table mediocrity? I'm not going to settle for that. And I'm going to come on this show and I'm going to continue to say, why are we settling for mid-table mediocrity? I understand why it has in the past, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not settling for that. And I'm going to hold them accountable for building Fulham Football Club forward instead of staying stagnant. Mid-table mediocrity is staying still. You're safe. There's no threat of relegation. You're just there. Why? the hell do you just want to be there? Don't you want to compete? I keep going back to this interview in 2018 with Shai Khan that he did with NBC Sports, and he talked about that he wanted to compete with the Liverpools of the world. Well, now I think here's your chance. The Riverside stand next season at some point will be fully functional, and you will be able to take advantage of that revenue. The commercial business that you get off that should help you. It should. So you need to, in my opinion, I'm talking about Fulham Football Club, the ownership, strive for better than what they are doing right now. I look at the situation with Mitro and thinking, you're doing it, and I understand why you did it, because he wanted to go and you wanted to get the most that you could for him. I understand that. I can put that aside. I was disappointed by it. But you never replaced him. You never replaced him. And then you let the Paulina situation happen at the end of the transfer window. That shows me lack of ambition. That shows me you're just looking to survive instead of thriving. My ambition is for Fulham Football Club to someday be in the Champions League and contend for a Premier League title. That might not be realistic, but that's my ambition. That's what I want for Fulham Football Club. I just don't want them just to survive in the Premier League. You might not like that. You might say I'm out of my depth. Well, I've been a Fulham Football Club supporter since 2007. I'm not out of my depth. I am living in an area that is used to winning titles. So, of course, I have that same ambition to win the Premier League title someday. And I'm sorry, if you're not trying to build something towards that someday, then why are you in the business of having a club? Why do you own Fulham Football Club? Just so you can show it off? And because Fulham Football Club should be the number one priority of the Cons, but I don't think it is. And that to me saddens me. Okay, coming up next to end this episode, I'm going to share my thoughts what I believe the ambitions of the Cons is at this point heading into next season. Okay, so as now I focus on what is the ambition of the Cons, here are my thoughts. And again, I'm not Tony Khan, I'm not Shahid Khan. I don't know exactly what they think, but their actions show me that they are comfortable with being in the Premier League, comfortable being mid-table. That's what it seems to me. I personally think right now they are showing that they are comfortable with mid-table mediocrity, which to me is insane, because you should be striving for better for yourself. But that's what I feel their ambition is, where they are right now, making sure that they stay there, stay in the Premier League, so they don't go back to what happened at the beginning of their ownership. I think they don't want a relegation battle, so they'll do enough to keep Fulham comfortably in the Premier League. But that to me is not good enough. That is just my thoughts. I could be dead wrong on the Cons. Maybe they have the same ambition as Marco and myself, but their actions tell me no. So until they prove me wrong, this is my opinion on it. So what's interesting about this, and I'll go back to this to end this episode, you probably have seen all the talk about a potential spending cap in the Premier League. And we'll have to see exactly how that all plays out, if it actually comes into fruition. But if it does, this could really benefit Fulham Football Club, because it'll bring everyone closer together, including the Big Six. If it's brought together correctly, it may allow Fulham to compete on a higher level. That would be fantastic. So that goes back to, if the spending cap goes through, gets approved, and it does what I hope it does, then it's up to the Cons to have the ambition of Marco and myself. What is the ambition? And their actions will prove that out in the coming years. Right now, I have my doubts. because I think their ambition is where they are right now. Let's just be in the Premier League. We have this beautiful Riverside stand with a pool. We just got to make sure we stay in the league and we're not in any threat of a relegation battle. Let's just be comfortable. Let's be mid-table. And I say, screw that crap. I don't want mid-table. I want Premier League title. That's what I want. And I'm not afraid to say it. That's what I want someday for Fulham Football Club. Why should we be striving for just survival? We should be striving for much better than that. And that's what I want for my club. The Fulham supporters deserve more than just survival. They absolutely do. I want to give the club credit for their modest rise in season ticket pricing. I think that was a good move in the right direction. That was the least that they should be doing. Thankfully, they did that, and that's a good thing. But you know what? Now it's time to really do some damage in the Premier League by spending your money wisely and bringing in the players to actually build something. Because when you look at it, when you look at the players that Fulham have, it could go in the other way very quickly. They're older, so it could go in that direction of relegation, which we've seen before. So they need to get younger and they need to spend some money on the right players. They need to back the manager. Make sure the manager stays. Because I'm telling you right now, if Marco Silva leaves this summer, if he leaves, everything falls apart. Everything. I'm telling you right now, everything that they built falls apart. Relegation battle is on the horizon if Marco leaves. So for me, it is important that the Cons have the same ambition of Marco and myself. We'll say it right now. Do they have it? And their actions will prove which direction they are going. And that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.